Okay. Okay. How you doing? See, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Clifford Watkins Jr. People know me by C.
Okay. What does Black History mean to you?
Black history means being black for me. Um, I mean, when I think about it, I guess what I think of the hardships that our our race had to go through. Um, so I can be here today to ask these. I mean, answer these questions and stuff.
Oh,
Um, I think of hope when I think of Black history. I also think of anger. You know what I mean? It's a few stuff that happen in Black history that do make me angry, but I look forward to progressing as a culture and as a race.
okay. Who were some of your past heroes that led the civil rights movement?
I'm glad you asked that. My first of all, one is Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean? Just for how savage he was. You know what I mean? He was gonna stand for the cause, and he wasn't scared of no repercussions that he did for him. You know what I mean? He had a strong faith in it, and he wasn't gonna let nothing deter him from that. And he was a boxer. You know what I mean? He was knocking out folks. You know what I mean? I don't want to say knocking out white folks, but you know what I mean? He did that too. And then my other one is Malcolm X, mainly for the same reasons, but the fact that he he was he was down for the cause even until he died. You know what I mean? And he had troubles early on in his life, but he went through. I think he went through like in the latter part of his life through another phase where he I think that's when he changed it to the X part, and he was showing that how he matured in it, but he still was going to help the race, in progression. And those are my two heroes, the ones that
Okay.
stand out more than Martin Luther King and all those.
Well, who are some current heroes that you look towards in the civil rights movement today?
I have no idea. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know who's doing it nowadays. I mean, can't say that young folks doing it, and most of the old folks that was doing it either they did or you know I guess moved on from it. But I had no idea.
Okay, so where do we go from here? How do we progress?
Um, I'm guessing it starts with the young folks, but personally, as a young person, I don't even know how to really put faith in that. Um, most of the folks who saw that as millennials, you know what I mean. Nobody, the past generations anyway, they look down on them, and half of the millennials, me being one of them, can't really look up to it either. You know what I mean? And I guess I guess I say this as like a people of all generations. That's where we can start by progression, because you know what I mean. Even though you have the millennials that's like this, you know what I mean. You got at least as a past generation, you got at least um, take responsibility. I mean, because for that part, you still have people in your generation that led up to how we are now. You know what I mean? You got bad seeds in every generation. I feel, and the bad seeds, you know what I mean? They just made what we got now as the millennials. That's all the bad seeds is right there. And with only a few of them, you know what I mean? You got to use them to I guess plant new seeds for the next one.
Okay. Do you have any last thoughts that you want to leave with us?
Like power.
You so funny.
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you.
You welcome.
According to an article written in 2014 by Gene Demby entitled The Birth of a New Civil Rights Movement, the movement's renewal has exposed a serious generational rift. It is largely a bottom up movement being led by young unknowns who have rejected, in some cases angrily, the presumption of leadership thrust on them by veteran celebrities like Al Sharpton. For young protesters, the tactics and ideology of traditional groups fall short. Some are more According to an article written in 2014 by Gene Demby, The Birth of a New Civil Rights Movement in Politico magazine, it says that this re-energized millennial movement differs from its half-century-old civil rights era forbearing a number of important ways. One, it is driven far more by social media and hashtags than marches and open-air rallies. Okay, let me get a. Okay. Now. Okay, everybody introduce yourself. Tell us your name.
Trinity, Destiny, Live, Faith, Grace.
Okay. What does Black History mean to you?
You're not supposed to force somebody to be who they're not.
Okay. Can anybody else tell me what Black History means? What's Black History Month?
Black History Month. Black History Month is when you celebrate the history of Black people.
Say it louder, Faye. Say it louder. We couldn't hear you.
Black History Month is when you celebrate the history of Black people.
Okay. Who are some past leaders of Black history? Just say it.
Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King. Anybody else know anybody?
Condoleezza Rice.
Condoleezza Rice. Okay.
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks. Okay. Lonnie, you know anybody?
I was gonna say Rosa Parks.
Huh?
I was gonna say Rosa Parks.
Okay, Grace, we didn't hear from you. Do you know anybody?
Harriet.
Harriet who? What's her last name? Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman.
Okay. Grace, you know somebody? Okay.
No.
Who are some current people who lead the civil rights movement? Some people today.
Gabby Douglas.
Gabby Douglas? Okay. Who else? Do you know of any strong Black people that are out in the public that talk about Black history, civil rights?
Yeah.
Who? You don't know their name? Okay, if I name some people, can you tell me yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, Oprah Winfrey.
Yes.
What Oprah Winfrey do?
Oh, I'm doing a thing about her in class.
What you doing about Oprah Winfrey in class?
I'm supposed to be telling about her. I'm supposed to be telling her childhood, her adulthood, and her accomplishments.
And what have you learned so far about Oprah?
She was a very important businesswoman. She was on TV.
Okay.
She has a school for girls.
Okay.
She gives some of her money to charities.
Okay. Now let's see another person. What about Al Sharpton? Do y'all know who he is? Okay. Okay.
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks. What did Rosa Parks do?
She refused to give up her seat just because a white person had to get on the bus.
Okay. Anybody else know of any other Black people who did something during civil rights?
No.
Somebody mentioned Martin Luther King. What did Martin Luther King do?
He did not like how white people could get the good houses and black people could get the not good answers.
Okay, Grace.
Black people had to eat scraps.
Yeah, that's true. They had to eat the scraps from the table.
I know somebody. Her name starts with a V, but I don't remember her name.
Okay, I don't know her name. What starts?
She went in a white school.
She went to the white school.
I
think I know. Ruby Bridges. Oh, okay. What did Ruby Bridges do? Tell us about Ruby Bridges.
I don't know what.
You don't know a lot. Okay.
Ruby Bridges. She was forced to go with soldiers to protect her, and the adults didn't want any of the kids to come because it was just a black girl in her school.
Okay.
When we turned the corner, I saw all of these people.
November 14th, 1960. It was 6-year-old Ruby Bridges' first day of school at William Frantz Elementary in New Orleans.
I remember them chanting 2, 4, 6, 8, we don't want to integrate.
It had been 5 years since the U.S. Supreme Court mandated the desegregation of schools. Now Washington was putting pressure on Louisiana and other states that had yet to comply. In a veiled attempt to appear compliant, city officials in New Orleans gave 150 black kindergartners an entrance exam, one they had no chance of passing. But 6 of the 150 passed that test. Ruby was one of them.
Everybody was coming over and congratulating my parents. She's so smart, she passed, we're so proud of her. So I actually thought that I was so smart that I passed this test that would allow me to go from first grade to college.
3 girls, including Ruby, were selected to attend William Frantz Elementary. But by the first day, the other 2 girls had dropped out, making Ruby the only black student in the school.
My parents only said, Ruby, you're going to go to a new school today, and you better behave. There was a knock at the door. My parents opened the door, and 4 very tall white men were standing at the door. And I remember looking at them and thinking, well, who are they?
Those 4 men were United States Marshals sent under order of President Eisenhower. Their job was to escort Ruby to and from school. One of the men was Charles Burks.
Well, we had a lot of demonstrations against what we were doing. The main thing was just be sure nothing happened to her. So we'd tell her, just stay close to us. We'll be all right.
There were barricades everywhere. There were cameras everywhere. I thought I'd stumbled into a parade. I actually thought it was Mardi Gras.
It didn't seem to bother her any. She was just doing what she had been told to do.
Ruby's mother went as well. Once inside, they were taken to the principal's office where they stayed all day. There, they watched white parents scramble in and out of classrooms, taking their children out of school.
500 kids walked out of school that day. And I didn't know what was going on because nobody explained anything to me. Finally, the bell rang and someone came into the office and they said, school is dismissed. You can leave. And I remember sitting there and thinking, wow, college is easy.
By the next day, the crowds had doubled.
And they kept pointing at me and shouting. They kept saying, we're gonna poison her. We're gonna hang her.
I was in favor of what we were doing. I knew what we were doing was right, and we were gonna make sure it happened.
This time, Ruby was taken to a classroom.
I remember looking into that classroom and all I saw was empty desk. I didn't see one child.
But there was one person there, her teacher, Barbara Henry. Coming from Boston, she was the only one willing to teach Ruby.
I remember looking at her and thinking, she's white. I'd never seen a white teacher before. She looked exactly like the people outside. She wasn't. I always say that she showed me her heart.
The following week, students started to return. But the principal confined Ruby to her classroom and didn't allow her to play outside or eat in the cafeteria.
I remember going to the back of the classroom to sharpen my pencil, and you could look onto the playground. There was these huge oak trees, swings and slides and basketball goals. And I kept thinking as I sharpened my pencil, where are the kids?
By the end of the school year, the protests had disbanded, and Ruby was finally allowed to meet the other children.
I finally found them, and I was so excited. So I went in to play with them. This little boy looked at me and he said, "I can't play with you. My mom said not to play with you because you're a nigger." So that's what this is about. It's not Mardi Gras. And this isn't college. It's about me. It's about me and the way I look and the color of my skin. And in my mind, that was okay. Yes, he hurt my feelings, but I wasn't angry with him because I felt like he was explaining to me why he couldn't play with me. If my parents said, "Ruby, don't play with him. He's Asian, Hispanic, Indian, Muslim, white, mixed race, Jewish, gay," I would not have played with him. I didn't feel like there was anything for me to forgive. The fact that in my mind, he was explaining to me and that I would have done the same thing. It wasn't like I was angry with him, so there was nothing there to forgive. The fact that when I passed the crowd, I thought it was Mardi Gras, there was nothing there for me to forgive.
Ruby returned the following year. She had a new teacher and a room full of classmates. She went on to attend an integrated high school and eventually graduated from Kansas City Business School with a degree in travel and tourism. And when she married and began raising a family, she taught her children to rely on God.
She always falls on her faith, and she makes sure that you do so as well. So it doesn't matter what you go through, it doesn't matter who hates you, who dislikes you. As long as you have that faith and that relationship with God, you're fine.
Ruby returned to William Frantz Elementary in 1993 when she enrolled her 4 nieces. She witnessed the same racism she had seen as a little girl. So to build bridges between the races, she volunteered as a parent liaison and established an after-school multicultural art club. Soon after, she launched the Ruby Bridges Foundation and began sharing her story with students all over the U.S.
I see hope that most of us don't see. I'm in schools every day. I am so humbled by the way my story moves kids. It's so simple. How Mrs. Henry didn't judge me. How all I wanted was a friend. Kids get that, they understand that. Our kids know nothing about racism. It's us as adults. We take racism and we pass it on to our kids. And that's why it's still around. Each and every one of us come into the world with a clean heart. I believe that if we are going to get past our racial differences, even today, it's going to come from our kids.
It's been over 55 years since Ruby walked up those steps and took her place in history. Today, her legacy continues to make a difference.
I was happy to see what she did because I knew it could be done. I've always told Ruby that, and I'm glad I was there, able to have something to do with it.
To have equality, it takes someone with courage to make that change so that we can come together. And you have to have a great, faithful foundation to stand up for something that you truly believe. My superhero, she does that every day.
Out of the commandments, if you could only keep one, the one you should keep is love thy neighbor.
When you look at the protests for Ferguson and Eric Garner, what do you say about that?
You know, Oprah, I think I have a different take on that, and it's just me personally. I so sympathize with the Brown family, Trayvon Martin's family.
Because your own son was shot.
So I understand what that pain is like for them. I believe every life is important. I believe anyone who takes a life should be held accountable. I believe that if we are to be true to Dr. King's legacy, we should be marching in the streets, but we should be marching in the streets for all the violence that is happening across the country.
Black on black crime as well.
Black on black crime, the police, and I totally agree that there's definitely a pattern there, because when you
of unarmed black men being shot.
Absolutely. When you think about how a person can jump the fence of the White House, run all the way across the lawn, get inside, travel 2 or 3 rooms, and not be shot, then how can these unarmed black men be shot down? There's definitely something there. But I believe that we all need to take to the streets. We need to be calling on a ceasefire because there are many, many parents like myself.
A ceasefire of violence, period.
Across the board.
Across the board. And you mean black on black crimes, police officers against unarmed black men.
Absolutely.
You mean all of it. You
I
mean all of it. You have to take responsibility for all of it.
All of it. If we are really going to make the change that we really want to make.
What about Jesse Jackson? Do y'all know who that is? Jesse Jackson. Y'all don't know who Jesse Jackson? No clue. Do y'all know who President Obama is?
Yes.
Okay.